Hello and welcome to the webinar, Safety by Design, Elevating Protection with Coverstar Automatic Safety Pool Covers by Latham. I'm Scott Webb, editor of Aqua Magazine, and today we have with us Joe Keys. He is the inside sales manager at Coverstar, a Latham company. Joe is, most importantly, a fellow Hoosier, as I am, and we go way back to those small towns. But he also has a strong record of leading teams, strengthening customer relationships, and improving day-to-day operations. He began his career with Coverstar in the service department at the tender age of just 19 years old. And he's got some information for us today, so I'm going to turn that over to him, and away we go.
All right. Thanks, Scott. I appreciate everybody coming and joining us on this weekend eve in the middle of the pool season. So we're going to try to keep it right at an hour. But again, thank you for coming. My name is Joe Keys. I have been with Coverstar for many, many years. I have worked every position at this company. I did take a little bit of sabbatical and went and did some distribution sales. And then I did about 6 months of retail sales. So I want to say everybody that's on this call, I am impressed by your ability to handle retail, because of all the jobs that I've had in the pool industry, I would tell you retail is by far the absolute hardest one. And I just was not a big fan of it. So as we go through this, we're just going to go through and talk about safety by design. So thank you again for joining. So we're going to get started. So last year, in 2024, as we were pulling our data, we noticed there are 120,000 pools that were built, roughly in-ground pools. There was only about 10% of them nationwide that got an auto cover. Now, the crazy thing is if you looked at the state of Indiana, 95% of the pools, of the in-ground pools built in the state of Indiana, got an auto cover. And you ask why? What's going on? I mean, what I would tell you is that this is a growing trend, right? With the adaptation of the ASPSC, what this is saying is that you can use an auto cover in lieu of a fence for barrier. Now, right now we have 16 states, 21 optional states, 558 local adaptations, and then one state law, which is Indiana, which is fun. But as we look at this, what we talked about internally is these are the states that have adopted national pool code. So if your state has adopted national pool code, then essentially you can use an auto cover in lieu of a fence. Now, granted, you might have to talk to an inspector here or there, or go through the inspection process and try to work it out with your local inspector, which those guys can be, and girls can be difficult. But if it is adapted in your area, you do have that. That is a real thing. And we have all the data and information that says that we are ASTM and UL certified. So, I mean, it's a growing trend across the country. Our dealer base grows, more covers are installed every single year all across the country, and it's fun. It's fun to get this. So you ask why? Why are there so many? Beyond the adaptation, is this actually this benefits dealers? When you talk about why it benefits dealers, well, first of all, you would say that you would never build a house without a roof. And that's the way we look at auto covers here at Coverstar. So you would never build a house without a roof. You want to put a roof on that cover or on that pool. So as we're looking at this, the couple things you're going to do is you're going to stay ahead of a growing trend, because this is a growing trend. There are over 100 people on this particular webinar today that's interested in knowing about auto covers. The next thing is it's going to add $15,000 to $25,000 to your pool build. And those numbers aren't just numbers I pulled out of a hat. That's us working with other dealers and finding out what exactly they're charging in the market for installation on an auto cover. The next thing is it's going to drive the snowball. Everybody loves to talk about the snowball effect of future pools. When you build one pool with an auto cover, you're going to start building more pools with an auto cover, and it will be a reoccurring conversation, and you'll get more comfortable talking about it in the kitchens of homeowners. The fourth thing that we're going to talk about, and we're going to hit on this a little bit on the end of this presentation, is the service revenue opportunities. There's not only money on the front side of this when you build your pool and you add the auto cover to it, but there's service revenue on the backside of it because this is a moving, working device. The other thing that's really nice, and this will, all the dealers that have auto covers, they'll tell you the same thing. When you're opening and closing pools, especially in the Midwest, it makes life easy. You close clear, you open clear. There's not a lot of debris in there. The water's clear. So it really makes opening and closing pools a lot easier. But as we were going through this year's presentations and trying to figure out what is the best way that we could really help you as dealers become more proficient on selling auto covers and feel more comfortable about it, as we kind of went through a phase of what could we do to help you, how to sell an auto cover is where we started. So as we're talking about, when we start talking about how to sell an auto cover, we're going to start talking about peace of mind, safety. This is a safety cover. It is ASTM certified. It is UL approved. It prevents anybody getting into the body of water. So that's nice. We have actually partnered with a very powerful team. We're partnered during National Water Safety Month. We partnered with Bodie and Morgan Miller to talk about the awareness of prevention of drowning. I don't want to necessarily get into that part of it because it gets a little sad. The video is a little sad. But what I'd rather do is I'd rather talk about something that's a little bit more fun, right? So as you look at these pictures, is why would you build a house without a roof? And as you're looking at this, it's going to keep influencers safe. It helps people that might have got a little lost at a party from drowning in their car. You can see in that far right-hand corner. And then we've even seen our partner out west put a cyber truck on top of a cover. So when you talk about how safe are they, these aren't AI generated photos. These are real photos. The picture of this car in the corner actually came from a newspaper of that area in Northwest Indiana about the people that got arrested while drunk driving. So these are all real pictures. This is how safe these covers are. But as you're continuing to talk about how to sell an auto cover, the next step in that is the environmental impact. When you're selling an auto cover, there's some key things that you want to hit besides the safety of it, right? One of the big things is it's going to reduce evaporation by 90%. This will help you retain chemicals. It'll help you reduce electricity, less circulation time. It's going to help you retain heat. The cover, our Coverstar covers, actually have a passive solar cover, which will increase the water temperature by 10 degrees, and you're going to help extend your swim season. Now, I am most familiar with the Chicago market. I have worked that area. Being out of Indianapolis, I've gone up to Chicago many times in my life. And this data actually comes from the U.S. Department of Energy based on $1.09 a therm. So that's pretty low. This data is from about 2010, so it's a little outdated, but it still shows my point here is in Chicago, if you had a pool open during the pool season, you're going to spend roughly, the homeowner's going to spend roughly $3,400 on heating that pool to a nice pool temperature for them. Now, when you add in an auto cover, that cost drops down to $523. So that is a substantial savings in Chicago. When you start talking about, I want my pool water to be warm, great. Let's add an auto cover to it. When you start talking about a warmer pool, that actually is going to help you extend your swim season, right? I know that a lot of retailers, when you start talking about, well, if you cut evaporation, we're not going to use as many chemicals. And then that's going to affect my retail sales, which I would actually argue and say, no, it's not going to affect your resale. It's going to help your retail sales with auto covers, with chemicals, because you're going to have people in the pool longer. When you can add 7 to 10 degrees to the pool, especially in the Midwest, you're going to be able to extend that swim season. You're going to be able to open that pool sooner. You're going to be able to keep it open for longer and close it later. So by having an auto cover, it does add 7 to 10 degrees onto your pool temperature. And then when you start talking about, when you're selling these, when you're talking to the homeowner, it's easy. You flip a button, the cover closes within a minute of either direction. The water is going to stay cleaner. It's going to keep the dirt, the leaves, the debris out. There's less maintenance that's going to have to do with that chemical water or with that one, and then less time cleaning. So it not only, it keeps things safe, It keeps things warmer, but it's easy to use. Now, as we go through this, there are some pitfalls that are hard to overcome because the auto cover industry has terminology that nobody is familiar with. So I would tell you that terminology matters. And one of the biggest things that you have to talk about when we start talking about terminology matters is we talk about track space. Track space and pool size are two different measurements, right? Those are two different measurements. And when you start talking about pool size, you're talking about a very good example is a fiberglass pool. Fiberglass pool dealers will say, I sell a 16 by 40 fiberglass pool. But during the actual installation process, when you install our encapsulation, which I'll show you pictures of that here in a second, it actually shrinks down to, fiberglass pools are roughly about 15 feet wide by 42 feet long because it matters where our encapsulation's put on top of that shell. The next thing I would tell you is two-phase shipments. Two-phase shipments, we refer to it as a pre-ship and a post-ship, or a first phase and a second phase. And really what that does is if you order your pre-ship, that's going to give you everything that you need out to your job site to build your pool. Then you would order your second shipment, so based on your measurements of your first shipment. So all of our first shipment would come out in standard kit sizes. You would install it, you would confirm your measurements, and then order the second shipment. Why that's important is obviously we want to get the measurements right. The bigger part of that, though, is I know that there are a lot of projects that are pool projects, they are landscaping projects, they're part of a home build. What's nice about doing a pre-ship and a post-ship is that's going to help your AR because you're going to be able to get the pre-ship, which is a little bit less than the second shipment as far as cost-wise, and you're going to be able to continue that pool without having the more expensive part of the mechanism and the fabric sitting on the job site waiting for the house to be built. The next thing with us that there's a lot of always confusion is the difference between flat lids and flush lids. As we show, I'll go into this a little bit more depth, but the flush lid gets installed before the deck is poured. The flat lid gets installed after the deck is poured. Here in the office, we hear a term that's standard lid. You want to avoid standard lids, and I'll show you why here in the next section. And then our fifth most important consideration is being different. We're different. We're cover guys. We're a little bit different. Our motor location is different than everyone else in the pool industry. When we talk about motor location, where you're going to actually have the physical motor wired up, that's standing on the mechanism, looking out over the body of water, left or right. We don't care about the depth of the pool, whether it's the shallow or the deep, that's irrelevant to us. It's standing on the system or the mechanism, looking out over the body of water. So as we're going through this and we're talking about selling auto covers, I really think one of the harder parts is creating realistic expectations to these homeowners. Right? When you're talking about putting a roof on a house, everybody knows what a roof looks like. But in the auto cover land, not everybody knows what a good auto cover looks like. So as we start talking about this, we got to talk about framing it up. And as a longtime salesman, I would tell you that I like to frame things up in the good, better, best. It's a very easy way to go. As you look through all the sales analysis, most people will fall into the better category. They don't want the cheapest. They don't want the most expensive. They want the middle one. So that's really, as we frame it up, that's what we're really looking for is the good, better, best. So as we look through these, you have good, which would be your cost-effective entry, top track standard lid, or maybe rounded encapsulation with the flush lid. And I'll show you some pictures of that. You have better, which is going to be what everybody is probably going to lean towards, is it's in between the best and the good. And then you have the best. You have hidden leading edge bars. You have stone lids. Those high-end projects are really where we're going to get into that best category. So as we start off, let's talk about the tier one. Let's talk about good, cost-effective, standard top track with a standard lid. That is a great entry-level auto cover. It is easy to install. It's easy to build your pool around the auto cover. There's not a lot of installation and tricks to it. It is a very entry level. The tracks would be screwed down to the top of the deck. The lid would be screwed down to the top of the deck. The question is always with standard top track is this going to be a tripping hazard? And I always joke and I say, if you have a kid that trips over the transition between tile and you go from tile to carpet and the kid trips over it, then yeah, he might trip on that because he's going to trip on everything. But reality is it's only a half inch tall in the center. And if you can go over the transition between carpet and tile, standard top track is a very good way to go. You get all the benefits of an auto cover. Now, let's say maybe you're a vinyl liner dealer and you like to keep your pools rectangle. So maybe your entry level, your good level would be this picture on the right side here. This is our rounded encapsulation with our flush lid and our polymer box. This is on a Latham steel wall pool with Latham steel wall full with steps and an in-ground or in-wall ladder. Maybe that is your good. So that's really where we're trying to get, is just help you get to these points where you can create your own tiers. I'm not dictating it. I'm just creating some spitballs for you. As we go on to the better category, I have a dealer that loves to do their better category is flush track and flush lid. It is designed that you use a housing, you can make the lid walk on. I would say that this is the industry standard. This works great. This scenario works great with smaller pools like a fiberglass pool. And you can see from this picture, the outside of the lid is flush. This is our flat lid. And then the track is flush. It's going to install just like how deck drain does. And as we get into the lids, again, the goal of this is to help you create your 3 different categories, your good, better, best. So as we look at this, you have your flush lid, you have your flat lid, and your standard lid. Now your flush lid is going to be installed before your deck is poured. Your flush lid is installed before the deck is poured. You're going to pour your concrete around it. It has to be installed before your deck is poured. Easily upgraded to walk on. And I would say the industry standard is the flush lid. As we get into the flat lid will cover a 17-inch opening box. It is very common for gunite dealers to use a flat lid. In our gunite markets, that is very common. Gunite dealers like to either use a stone lid or a flat lid just because of easy installation. It does require a 14-inch opening. And then our last one is we always talk about is our standard lid. Our standard lid is when you say standard lid, that was the standard in the 1980s. It is sharp, it is bright, it is standard aluminum. It is the equivalent, in my mind, of putting hubcaps on a Mercedes. It is easily damaged in transport. And that's fun to talk about when you talk about easily damaged in transport, because that's an obstacle that we've had to overcome here at Coverstar, is getting these long 24-foot long boxes from factory to job site without damage. With these standard lids, I have actually seen a standard lid get damaged in transport from the dealer's trailer to the backyard. I watched somebody bend one of these. So when someone says they want the standard lid, I would say, no, I don't really think you do. You really want the flat lid. As we're just talking about our better tier, at Coverstar, we have a multitude of different encapsulations to help you build any type of pool. So as you're looking at these pictures, we have vinyl liner encapsulation. We have one-piece vinyl liner encapsulation. And this is where you would screw it right down to the top of your panel and you would pour concrete right into it, just like any standard vinyl liner coping that you're used to. We actually have 2 flavors of this. We have inclined and we have rounded. From there, we also have fiberglass encapsulation for your fiberglass pools. It has a little bit of a rise on it. Then you can go to our gunite encapsulation, which are our 2 bottom ones here. All of these encapsulations, except for our one piece right here, these will all accept. We have a reusable form at Coverstar, which is very nice. It's the equivalent of the styrofoam forms that you would use on your coping, but ours are aluminum. They're nice because once they're installed, you can hang on them from the pool versus like the The styrofoam ones, those tend to blow all around the backyard if the wind's blowing. I always tell people you have to use a releasing agent on our reusable forms. And using the releasing agent on our reusable forms, I always suggest using a butter flavored one so you can lick your fingers when you're done. See, you can see Scott laughing on that one. So these are our two reusable forms, and it's locked into this fiberglass encapsulation. And you can see from the picture of this is a beautiful pool. You have your flush lid right here. You have your encapsulation that's going to run around both sides, and then you have the concrete edge on this. So this is a nice, better option. If you're a vinyl dealer or a fiberglass dealer and you're not wanting to do stone and you don't want the aluminum face, this is a great option for you. As we continue on, we'll talk about going into tier 3, like the best of the best of when you're doing an auto cover. And in our opinion, when you start talking about doing the best of the best, you start talking about stone coping and stone lid. And what this does is this is going to allow you to have all 4 sides of your pool are able to have stone coping. Now, what I would tell you is that stone coping, they refer to it as a capstone, but stone coping, when you start talking about running this way, is we really like to have stones that are 14 inches wide by 24 inches long. The 14 is the hard number to achieve. We ask for the 14 because that is the inside dimension of our housing. And obviously you would want a stone to cover the hole where the mechanism is. So that's why we ask for 14. You can go up to 24 by 24, but again, these stones have to be removable. You'll want to be able to get into that pit at least once or twice a season. And if you make these stones 24 by 48 or whatever you want to make them, they become very heavy to move and your back will regret all of that. So I would say that the 24 by 24 is really, we're just looking out for your well-being there, your physical health, because that's a heavy stone. Now, when we look at these pictures, we have 2 different ways to do stone lids. You can pour your own concrete box, and you can see our brackets are mounted right in there. These are our heavy-duty brackets. Or if you are working with a landscaper, and the landscaper, all he cares about is elevation, and you're a fiberglass dealer, we have something called box perimeter encapsulation. So when you would mount your box to the end of your fiberglass pool, you would have your concrete in between. And then this encapsulation goes around the top of the box, and it allows the stones to sit on a bracket system right here. This makes all of the elevations the same when you're doing this fiberglass project. And it helps when you're dealing with a landscaper that's doing like a paver patio or a paver deck. It keeps all that sub deck the same elevation. It makes the brackets very easy to install. Now, as you get more into the best category, everybody wants to know what the best is. Stone lid with hidden leading edge bar, negative edge pulls. When you're trying to hide that bar, you are talking about doing the best in our 3 categories. Hiding the bar can be done on gunite pools primarily alone. Only gunite pools can you hide the bar. And what you're doing is you're hiding the bar underneath these massive stones. You can see in this top right-hand picture, you can see the size of these stone lids right here, which is beautiful. When it opens up all the way, the bar actually tucks underneath these stones. Now, admittedly, this makes my back hurt a little bit, but it is very pretty when it's all the way open. In this other picture, you can see they did a big raised wall. It gives it a nice view, nice little pool area. In our bottom one here, we do have the ability to have auto covers on negative edges. Now, we definitely request that you follow the diagrams and the limitations that we have, but I will tell you with confidence that we put auto covers on negative edge pools pretty regularly. So as we go through this, what I really wanted to do is just talk about creating realistic expectations, helping a dealer figure out what is your good, what is your better, what is your best. Because I can tell you as the market grows, as the industry grows, everybody wants an auto cover. So you don't have to ask, do you want fries with that? I would tell you with a lot of confidence, they want the fries. But now you have to figure out, which one do you want? Do you want the small fry? Do you want the medium fry? And do you want the large? And then how do you build that into your pricing structure? You can do that with lids. You can do that with stone coping. You can do that with reusable forms. So this is really, it's a good way to kind of go at this market, because the anticipation is that everybody wants an auto cover. So now you just have to build your pricing program around those wants.
Joe, I'm just going to jump in here for a second. We have a poll question for our
Okay.
audience. I'd like to ask everyone to take a moment and answer our poll question, which is, does your company currently install or service automatic pool covers? Yes, we service auto covers. No, we only sell auto covers. No, but we are considering it. Or no, we do not currently work with auto covers. Please take a moment and fill those out, and we will get back to
I wish we had like a follow-up I-step question on there, like why not?
yes.
Just sorry, Scott.
No, that's good. Okay, I'm good. You can carry on.
All right, now we're gonna get into we're gonna get into some service and maintenance, right? Because we started with why you should be selling auto covers, because you're building a house and you got to put a roof on it. We talked about all the benefits of having an auto cover with the environmental aspects of it. And then we talked about, how easy it is for the homeowner to use. They're going to be able to use their pool longer. But when we start getting into the weeds a little bit about service and maintenance, the big part about this is going to help your business grow. If you talk to pool professionals in the state of Indiana, they will all tell you the same thing. They do auto covers. They service auto covers. They maintenance auto covers. That is a part of their business. And the bigger companies have their own auto cover crews. So as we get into this is really more about, maybe you should be offering this part of this aspect of it as your business. I mean, you probably already do replacement liners. You do pool cleanings, you do openings, you do closings. So when we start talking about, I have worked for Coverstar Central, I feel like for literally my whole entire life. So as we look through this, I got my start in the pool industry doing what we would refer to as a combo. And a combo is where you would clean the cover. You would use our protectant. It's a non-alcohol based, non-petroleum based protectant. And what you're doing is you're cleaning the top of the cover. You're cleaning the pit. You're checking all of the moving parts. Now, we offer two different programs here at Coverstar. For our local Midwest, we have a service department, and they run in the Midwest. And what I would tell you is we have a couple different options for a homeowner to call and say, do you offer tune-ups? Now, in being completely transparent, we're not trying to compete with your business in any shape or form. All we're trying to do is really set the market of what you should be charging to work on these auto covers. So to do a tune-up, transparently, our service department charges $355 plus travel. We inspect the tracks, the ropes, the pulleys. We lubricate the mechanism. We verify that the motor and switch are working, and we make sure that the water level is correct. Now, when you start talking about a combo, we charge as a company $640 plus travel. That's going to include 2.5 hours of labor. So when we talk about this, this is something I talk about all the time with a lot of my dealers. And I will tell you that I had a dealer recently reach out to me, and she said, you know what? She goes, I finally listened to what you were suggesting to me. And she said, I sent out an email. I did an email blast to 40 customers. And this was in November of last year. In November of last year, and this was a dealer in Southern Indiana. She said she sent out 40 emails. They had some really warm weather coming up. And she sent out an email blast and said, hey, get your cover cleaned for wintertime. 40 emails went out, simple email blast. She had 30 homeowners respond. she charged $500 to go out and clean their cover during the wintertime. So in the Midwest, for you to be a dealer and to have service revenue of $500 times 30 different homeowners, that's good revenue in November. I mean, that's a lot of spa chemicals, because that's usually what's going out of a store during that time of year. So there's very good revenue. And I put these numbers up there so you can see and feel confident when you start talking about what we should be charging. When you're out there, and even if you're out there just opening the pool or maintaining the pool or checking the water, checking the chemistry of the water, I would be checking wearable parts. The wearable parts that you would see are sliders, pulleys, ropes, and leading edge bar inserts. Now, I would tell you that the industry standard is that all of our pulleys are sealed pulleys. And so you say, well, what does that mean? Well, if a pulley is making noise, which they will, there's a lot of pressure under it. If you were to add a little bit of lubricant, a little bit of Teflon spray to that pulley, and it stops making a noise, I would tell you that pulley is no longer a sealed pulley, and that pulley is bad and needs to be replaced. That's a wearable part. Those are things you should have on your service truck, especially if you're in a market where there is a lot of auto covers. I would have pulleys on my truck. I would have sliders. Sliders are what prevent the leading edge bar from falling into the pool, that what keeps the liner from being damaged. I would have a variety of sliders. It's not a very big entry cost to get some of these parts on your truck. And the cool thing is they're not going to expire. You don't have to worry about them freezing. But if you need them and you don't have them, then it makes things a lot less fun. Also with sliders, it is advised that sliders be changed every 2 years based on wear and use. And you say, Joe, what do you mean by wear and use? If you have the retired couple and this is their summer home and they use their auto cover once or twice a season or 3 times, that's not really a bunch of use and wear. So I would say they're probably going to get a little bit more than 2 years out of a set of sliders. If you have the homeowner that tends to break everything, pumps, filters, heaters, motor seals, whatever you can come up with, heat exchangers, those are the homeowners that you would definitely want to be changing those sliders every 2 years, because that's a wearable part. If that slider goes bad, that bar could get in the pool and it could cause all kinds of damage. It could scratch a fiberglass shell. It could knock tile off the inside of a gunite pool. It could tear up a liner. And then ropes. Now, the one thing about ropes, and I'm proud to say this being a Coverstar, longtime Coverstar employee, is Coverstar ropes are detachable. So if you come across a rope, as you see in this right-hand picture right here, where it looks frayed and destroyed, you can actually change those ropes. Our ropes are held onto our leading edge bar by 4 screws. It's a relatively easy process to change those ropes. So it's nice that with the Coverstar system, our ropes are detachable, because when you come across these wearable items and you see this rope, you can say, oh, I got a set of those on my truck. Let's go ahead and take care of this now so it doesn't break right before the birthday party, because that's usually when there's an issue. So as we're moving on, if you go out there and you want to clean the cover and you want to help this homeowner make their cover look nice, the question is, what if their cover is beyond help, right? What if you get into that category? My question is always, do you offer replacement fabrics? I help a lot of dealers figure these out and do replacement fabrics. It is not a difficult thing. I would say most of the time you have a working cover there to show you how it works, so you can see how it works. So it makes the replacement a little bit easier. And you can see on these are tore up. I mean, this picture on the right-hand side, they're obviously using a rope to close their safety cover, which is a little scary. You can see that this one's a little dry. As we move on to our pictures, these are more signs that it's time for a new fabric. Visible wear, right? Visible wear. Large holes in the cover, right? This isn't a safety cover anymore. These have holes. This cover on the left side is paper thin. Is the fabric brittle and dry? If you can run your hand across it and your hand turns blue, then I would tell you that fabric is dry and needs to be replaced. The UV has degraded and has gone out, and it just doesn't have the same strength. It's not going to hold that Cybertruck anymore, right? It's going to barely hold the neighbor's dog when you get into something this thin. And when you start seeing the white material on the side, what you're really seeing there is scrim. Now, scrim is the center of the fabric. If you talk about a Coverstar fabric and the layers, you have a layer of vinyl, you have a layer of glue, you have a layer of scrim, which is what gives it its strength. It is designed to keep for the cover to stop the ripping. You know, like if you were ripping a piece of paper, the scrim stops the rip and gives the safety aspect of it. Then you have another layer of adhesive, another layer of vinyl. So when you're looking at this picture and you can see the white, you're looking at the center of the cover, right? So that is no longer a safety cover in my mind. What if you go out to a job site and you see load-bearing duct tape? I mean, this is not a safety cover. This is a liability. And as a dealer, this is a liability on your behalf. You can see that this is some nice NASCAR work. You know, the guy gets a gold star from it, but this is not load bearing. These covers are designed in case somebody gets on it. If anybody gets on it, it's going to be a safety. This duct tape is not going to hold any weight. So when we talk about replacement fabrics, one of the things that I always kind of talk about is I try to associate auto covers with the auto cover industry, because everybody understands cars, right? Everybody has a car. Most people started driving when they're 16. Most people still have their driver's license. So I try to associate car stuff with auto cover stuff. And in that line, I start talking about replacement fabrics mirror car tires. And when we start talking that, the first thing I would hit would be the dealer liability. Now, I know I am an aggressive driver. I know that I drive my car pretty hard. I go through tires all the time. I know my guy Steve at Discount Tire will not patch a sidewall on a tire. And the reason why Discount Tire won't, because it's a safety issue. You can't patch the sidewall of a tire, because if the tire goes out, then that would make Discount Tire liable. It is the exact same when you start talking about patches for an auto cover. We sell patches that are 6 by 6 inch sections. And when I say it's for a reason, I would say that a 6 inch by 6 inch square is about the size of a toddler's foot. And you go, Joe, that's a really weird point of reference. And you go, yeah, I know it's a weird point of reference, because if you think about this patch is not a load-bearing patch. This patch is only designed to keep water off of the top of the cover. When you have ginormous holes, and I get requests, can I have a 2 foot by 2 foot patch? I am always saying no. I don't want to do that, because you are creating a liability for yourself. That 2 foot by 2 foot patch will not hold the neighbor's cat when it's glued on. So the sections of patches are sold by 6 by 6 inch squares. And that's for liability reasons. And it's the same when we looked at all those other pictures. When you go out and a homeowner says, can you patch that? No. If you saw white scrim when you went out to open that pool, I would immediately be calling my service manager. I would be emailing the homeowner and say, I have concerns about your cover. I think it is time to do a replacement cover, right? Because these are a lot like car tires. Your car tire is bald, right? So that's where you get into that liability aspect of it all. There is also an operator responsibility. Fabrics and car tires are the same, right? There is a driver on a car that has a 60,000 mile warranty for their car tires. That warranty isn't going to be, warranty is not going to be honored if they're out doing drifting and burnouts, right? That's what Steve at Discount Tire tells me all the time. So that 60,000 mile warranty is not included on that car tire because it's been abused, right? So there's a level of responsibility. As a cover operator, it is the operator's responsibility to make sure everything is out of the pool when you close the cover. It is the operator's responsibility to make sure everything is off of the top of the cover when you open it up. And that's important, because the homeowner needs to understand that this is their responsibility. It's the same like car tires, right? You can't do burnouts, you can't do drifting. You can't curb and destroy your tire. It is they're operating the cover. There is a responsibility level of it for them. The next thing, and this is always fun to talk about with operator responsibility, is water level. Water level and auto covers are the same as air pressure and a tire. Okay. If you have low air pressure in a brand new car, you're going to hear somebody say, oh, this car drives awful. It's a brand new car. What is actually going on is you have low water pressure. It is exactly the same with auto covers and water level of the pool. Most dealers would tell you they like to keep the water level about halfway up on the skimmer opening. As a longtime auto cover guy, I would tell you you want to keep it 3/4 of the way up, okay, on the skimmer opening. The higher the water level, the more of the fabric that's going to sit on the surface of the water. It reduces the weight. It makes it run easier, just like air pressure, right? If there's different air pressure in your car, it's going to make it run different. Inversely, if you are to drop your water level down to the returns, this is the same as driving around on a flat tire. It is not going to function as a safety cover. The water underneath the cover is what gives it the strength. For winterization, I would tell you that you only want to drop the water level 1 inch below the skimmer opening and then keep it at that 1 inch. If you have to drop the water level. If not, the best thing to do is to keep the water level the same way. So as we talk about water pressure and water level and air pressure, they're identical. They're identical. I mean, I have seen where the water level has been down by the returns this time of year, especially, and the cover will rip itself off the deck. It'll tear the top of the coping off. It'll bend the panel. I mean, it is the same as, having bad air pressure in your car. I bent my rim. Yes, well, your tire was flat and you were still driving. So those two associations come into play. Again, as a pool professional, I would say 3/4 of the way up on the skimmer opening is the absolute best place to be running that auto cover during the season. And then when you close it, don't drain it below 1 inch below the skimmer opening. And then my third part, which is fun when we start talking about replacement covers and car tires, is warranty and realism. Is that the time frame on car tires and warranties, they mirror each other. So when you start talking about what is a warranty cover on a car tire, well, it's going to cover manufacturing defects, right? It's the same with an auto cover. Our auto cover is going to cover manufacturing defects. Once you get past your 3-year mark, you're going to get into what we call a prorated discount. It is identical with car tires. Once you wear down those car tires and you get to a certain point, you're going to get a discount on a new set, not a completely new set of tires. So it is the warranty, even the warranty with replacement fabrics and car tires are the same because there is a time frame. There's an exposure of using it. And then once you get past that point, then it's a discount towards a new cover. Now, as we continue on about transparency, here at Coverstar, when we do replacement covers, we anticipate that we're going to have 3 hours of labor. We charge $800. I will tell you, in my heyday of doing installations and replacement covers, once you do your first one, you're going to use all of those 3 hours. I guarantee it. Maybe 4, maybe 5. Your 5th one, you'll get down to 2 hours. By the time your 10th one, you'll be a solid hour and a half. I can almost guarantee you. As a former crew leader, I can tell you when I used to do replacement covers, if I had an additional helper with me that was relatively sober, we could crank out a replacement cover in probably under an hour. And that's taking off the old cover, cleaning the box, running the new ropes, running it, adjusting it, and getting it going. So when you think about a solid hour of making it $800, doing replacement covers is a great source of revenue. We also, we run in 2-man crews. Every additional hour, we charge $215. Again, this is transparency because I want you to feel comfortable when you're talking to these homeowners and go, we're going to charge you $800 for installation because we're anticipating 3 hours of labor. I want you to have that confidence because this is what we're charging. And when you're out there too, and you're looking for the replacement cover, when you're looking at doing a replacement cover, because of salt pools have had a negative effect on auto covers over the years. You can see in this picture on the right hand, the roll tube, the salt pools are dissolving these roll tubes. So when you're doing replacement cover quote bids, unroll the cover a little bit and make sure that the roll tube on the mechanism is not broken. As crazy as it sounds, the fabric itself will hold the roll tube together. And I've heard of stories where guys have unrolled the tail of the fabric off of the drum and the tube just fall into the bottom of the box. The cover itself was holding the tube together. So those are something that you definitely want to check when you're out talking about doing replacement fabrics. The other thing you want to do is make sure that it runs, make sure that it's switching, make sure that the switch isn't sticking, make sure the motor isn't making any weird noise. And then I would document everything. You know, I always like to suggest sending emails out to homeowners and making sure they're feeling pretty clear on what you're out there doing and what you found. I went through that pretty quick, Scott. I'm a little disappointed on myself.
Well, Joe, I've probably seen at least a dozen presentations on auto covers. That was the best I've seen.
I
Those
appreciate that.
those analogies really bring it home, and just really, really on point, good information. We have time for a few questions yet, so I'm just gonna jump right in. And here's kind of like I think this is a good question. Do all auto cover pools have to be a rectangle?
No, they do not. No, they do not all have to be rectangle. I answer this question a couple different ways. I would tell you that a good operating auto cover is normally a rectangle pool, right? So I would say that a good operating cover is a rectangle pool. We can accommodate for free forms with a couple different styles of track. We have a flush track that sets up like deck drain. We have a top track that you can do. I mean, I get quote requests for a pool type. It's called a mountain lake pool, where it's of huge shape and it ends up being huge. And I'd say that's just not an auto cover friendly pool. I'd say the reality of it is, Scott, is that here in the Midwest, I'll talk about my own neighborhood. At least, let's call it 7 months a year, this homeowner is going to look into their backyard, and if it's an auto cover pool, they're going to be looking at a rectangle. So when you talk to a homeowner and go, I want a shaped pool, great. I would suggest keeping in the rectangle form, but then adding a bench, adding a sun deck, adding a big grand entry staircase. You're keeping in the rectangle, but when you open the cover up, you can do anything you want once you get underneath the tracks on that side. So full length steel steps, sun ledges. I would say rectangle pools operate more efficiently. Those are auto cover friendly pools. We can do shaped pools. That it's not something that we shy away from. I would just say for longevity's sake, build the rectangle, do a full width steel step, do a sun bench. This picture right in this one has an interior spa. So I mean, there's a lot of different design elements you can do and still keep within the rectangle to keep it a good functioning auto cover.
We've got a question from Darian Hewson. Can you install an auto cover on an above ground pool?
Creatively, you can.
Okay.
You can install one creatively. What I would tell you is that no matter how you spin it, we are going to end up with a rectangle. And I would say most above ground pools are circular. So if you're putting a rectangle on top of a circle, you get into a very large cost of trying to cover a 26-foot wide above ground pool, because you would have to build the deck to a rectangle to make it. Now, some of the other pools, I mean, I know that in the Latham family, we have some pool lines that can do above ground and semi in ground that are auto cover friendly. Yes, you can, but you still have to stick within the specs and the framing of doing an auto cover.
What's the largest pool that you can build with a Coverstar by Latham cover?
Well, I can answer this a couple different ways. Circling back to when I did my 6 months of pool building and I was not successful with it because I don't speak retail, right? That's not a dialect I'm familiar with. Um, I would say that the largest pool on a Coverstar cover in my mind is 24 feet wide by 55 feet long. And my logic behind that measurement is at 24 feet wide, you're using our 2.5 leading edge bar. It's an oval bar, it's very strong. So it can go up to 24 feet wide. And the length, 55 feet long, 55 feet of cover will fit into our housing. That is the max that it'll fit into our housing. So when you start talking about a 24 by 55, that is the largest size pool, keeping everything close to standard. Now, if you wanted to do something crazy, I mean, I have personally seen a 30 by 60. We have to get design specs. We have to have some engineers sign off on it. I would tell you that 28 feet wide is pretty much the max anymore. And that has a lot to do with logistics. These all wrap up on a tube. Getting a 30-foot tube across the country, the logistics of trying to get that big a tube across the country is very difficult. So at 28 feet wide, that is the absolute max. And then the length at as far as absolute max, we would want to stay within the 85-foot range. So 28 by 85, but that's a ginormous residential pool.
You touched on this in your presentation, but we'll bring it up again. What effect does salt have on a Coverstar by Latham cover, and does it affect the warranty?
Um, I would tell you that salt water is the most corrosive substance on the planet. We'll start there. So, let's try not to gloss over that fact that that is the most corrosive liquid on the planet. At Coverstar, a couple of things that we have done to try to overcome salt pools. We have an extruded roll tube. As we talked about, when we do replacement covers, you'll see that the salt is actually eating away at the roll tube. And what we have now as an upgrade is our tube is actually extruded like our track is. It's marine grade anodized aluminum, not your standard rolled aluminum tube, but it's a heavier duty tube to wrap up that cover that has salt water in there. The other thing that we have is we have a vented edge. Now our vented edge, they're 1/4 inch holes every 16 inches down both sides of the pool up by the webbing. And what that does is that allows the surface of the water to gas off. Gas always follows in the path of least resistance. We have 1/4 inch holes every 16 inches, and it allowed the gas to escape through the holes. I know that there's a lot of dealers that have gone out to pools and there's one side of the cover that's burnt, and the homeowner goes, oh, that's where the sun always hits it. And I would agree that's where the sun hits it, but that's not why the cover looks bad. The cover looks bad there because what is happening is the sun is heating up that gas, the liquid chlorine gas, and that gas is dissolving the fabric on that side. So that would be a situation where the vents would be very helpful. It does not affect our warranty as far as the changes. When you start, we would not deny a warranty claim because it is a salt pool. So it doesn't affect warranty. I would just say that when you're talking about doing a salt pool, you need to really think about electrolysis and making sure everything is bonded, everything's tied together into bonding, because with salt pools, it attacks the weakest metal on the pool, electrolysis. Everybody knows this song and dance. Aluminum would end up being the weakest point on that pool. So you want to make sure it's in the bonding grid to avoid any of that electrolysis happening.
Good point. This is a good one. What's your opinion about homeowners doing their own DIY covers these days?
I am a homeowner. I'll admit it, I'm a homeowner. I try to do stuff on my own all the time. My opinion is it's out there. It's kind of the inevitable with the way that the world is anymore. Is there's a guy with a screwdriver and feeling confident. I would say, that you're gonna have that. I would tell you that the downside of it is it's very easy to make $1,000 mistake when doing an auto cover. It's very easy. And as a professional, I would be saying that to the homeowners as well, as that, it's a thing. There's always that element, but I would tell you that it's something. It's an installation that needs to be done truthfully by a professional. Because circling back, if you think about where this all started, this is about safety. And when you start talking about safety, I don't really like to cut corners when we're talking about safety. So I would prefer that a professional install the auto cover to avoid any issues or any costly mistakes.
I think that makes sense. Um, how often do these Coverstar by Latham systems need to be serviced?
I would say once a year. And once a year is a really good time to service it. I'd say when you're out there opening the pool, this is a good time to open up the box and check all those wearable parts, make sure the sliders aren't destroyed. Looks like the dog been chewing on them. Once a year is what I would say. And that is on average. Again, circling back, when you have the bigger covers, the more complicated designs, the negative edges, the larger covers, those are going to require more maintenance because, quite honestly, they're larger. And again, you always have the homeowners that like to break stuff. So you're going to have that element as well. But I would say once a year, servicing it is a good rule of thumb.
Okay, we've got time for one more. And I guess this is a good one to end on. Do you sell through distribution or dealer direct?
I would say that we sell through a lot of different avenues. We service buying groups. We have partnered with distribution. The big advantage with interacting with distribution on the auto covers is truthfully one of the biggest obstacles we have to overcome is getting these 24-foot long, 200-pound boxes from factory to job site. And distribution plays a great role in helping that out. They have a fleet of trucks. They have people that want to help. We do sell through buying groups. We do have a couple of direct accounts. But I would tell you the partnership with distribution has really helped the auto cover market because they have the ability to stock the longer boxes and supply those boxes in a quicker manner than having to deal with like an LTL or a common carrier. For some reason, those companies just love to destroy those boxes. And then their payout, they don't pay per invoice, they pay per pound. So in those situations, distribution plays a great role in the auto cover industry, being able to stock our product because it is long, being able to deal with the common carriers because they deal with them all the time. So distribution has played a great role in building the auto cover market.
I think, Joe, that'll do it for today. I want to thank you for that was a really informative hour. I learned a lot, and I don't always say that, but I really learned a lot today about every aspect of the auto cover business. I want to thank everyone for coming to the webinar. And I know everyone's got a lot left to do today. It's a busy time of year, so let's get back to the pool business, and we'll see you next time.
Yes. Thank you very much.